Welcome back to another episode of Cowboy Grill, probably the last one of the summer season before we start heading into fall and winter, which is going to be a different style of grilling. So this is going to be the last run of summer grilling for this year until next year. So what we got going on today? Well, we're in the Fuzzy kitchen right now, and do pardon the mess because I just cooked a big birthday celebration breakfast for Fuzzy Mama. That's right, that's her birthday today. Well, actually yesterday, but we're celebrating today anyway. And we're right now in preparations to cook a big, fantastic cowboy-style, homestead-style dinner for the continuation of the celebration for today. Here's what we got going on. We're going to be doing, of course, our standard beautiful steaks. Again, I have potatoes and stuff peeled in here. This is just to wash the steaks. Do pardon the mess. Again, I'm actively cooking like all damn days today, so, you know. Anyway, we got ourselves some ribeyes here. I'm washing these guys out real quick because you always want to wash your store-bought meats because they're full of dyes and preservatives and other things. I mean, yeah, it's penetrated into the meat tissue, but do wash it the best you can. It just makes your life a little bit easier, makes them tastier. We got ribeyes. We got New York steaks from Costco. So over here on this property, we tried raising animals before. We do have a lot of predatory species. It just didn't work out really well, if you know what I mean. So we decided not to raise animals this year, and so we have to buy our own meats. But we do raise a lot of farming veggies and fruits. The garden is aplenty, and so is the orchards and the vineyards. We got a lot of grapes coming in, Concords, Pinot Gris, Champagnes, and a very interesting cross species that actually just kind of hybridizes itself. They're very small, very juicy, very sweet, and seedless, which tells me that they are a hybrid. And normally, hybrid species, if they cross over between kind of related species but different enough, they will be sterile offspring, which fruit is the offspring of a plant. So in this case, that they are seedless, it tells you that it is a hybridized species. And it's funny that it just did it on its own. I didn't plan it that way. I didn't graft them that way. Weird. But they're kind of a light-skinned, kind of light purplish, very sweet, very tiny little grapes, no seeds. So they're clearly a cross between some Concord and maybe the Pinot Gris or one of the Champagnes. I think it could be the Champagne because they have kind of an effervescent taste to them. They're very, very nice, very, very, very pleasant to eat, but very interesting how they just sort of happened on its own. We're going to have not just meats. We got, of course, our garden harvest. This is only just a small sampling. I mean, I've been eating out of the garden for the last damn 4 weeks. I gotta tell you, I didn't know if eating healthy or healthy eating is all that healthy because I've been bubble gutting for like the last month now. Maybe my body just ain't used to it. Maybe it's the minerals in our soil. Maybe it could just be because I'm eating a lot more veggies than normal because I'm growing them, so I might as well eat them. That could be part of it. I've never been really great with strictly vegetarian diets, and that's kind of what I've been doing mostly. That could be a big part of it. But anyway, it's very interesting that that's kind of a consequence. So if you're planning on growing your own stuff and surviving off your own growth and your own raising on your own land, just know that if you really transition to that pretty heavily as a mainstay of your diet, it will take some time for your body to get adjusted to it. You may actually feel a little worse initially, more gassy. Maybe you don't feel quite right for a couple of weeks. You have to let your kind of gut microbiome kind of adjust to that because you're going to need different balances of bacteria in there. You may even need to have different types of microorganisms introduced in order to be able to really digest and get the benefits of this vegetarian diet and also from fresh garden veggies, which do have different levels of minerals, nutrition, different elements to them based on their land growth and how they're raised. And of course, because they are fresh, they're going to be much more dense in different elements and minerals and nutrients than the store-bought ones, which tend to be a little depleted. Store-bought, they usually pick them just on the verge of ripening, and they usually ripen in transit or in storage due to the ethylene gas that is released by their neighboring vegetables. They put them all in a big pile, in a big storage bin, and as you put them next to each other, they release ethylene gas as they start ripening, which triggers the other ones to start ripening, and that's kind of what happens. Then they usually put nitrogenated or nitrated gases into that chamber to then halt the kind of ripening process and keep any bacteria and molds and other things off of them so they actually preserve. So really what you're buying in the store was picked green or just barely to the ripening stage from last year. So it's a little bit different when you're picking them right fresh off the vine, fully organic. And when you have organic, they will start going within a day or two of being picked. That's how you know it's really fresh. Your store-bought ones, you'll notice that they can stay for a few days, even a week. That tells you that they've been treated with something. So when you have some natural stuff like that, they're going to be a different sort of level of nutrition, different sort of level of minerals, different sort of level of everything depending on the soil and where they were raised. And that could interact with your gut differently, which takes time for your body to adjust. Now, overall, now that I've been doing it since the whole kind of beginning of the harvest season, I feel a hell of a lot better now than I ever did on store-bought food. But there is that adjustment time, so that's something to keep in mind. But here's what we got going on. I mean, this is just a small sampling of all the tomatoes we have gotten, the zucchinis, the eggplants, just a bunch of stuff. We got pears coming and we got apples. We got it all. It's a mess in here because I'm cooking and making all kinds of concoctions here. We got more over there. We got cherry ones as well too, which I already ate all of them that I picked. They're delicious. If you ever had a fresh tomato, oh my God, way different than the store. Pears, these things have like a perfume to them. It's just amazing when you eat them off the tree. But anyway, let's get to work. I got to get the fire started, but before that, I'm going to show you guys my Cowboy marinade, which makes the steaks incredibly tender, tasty, and most importantly, allows them to be cooked on an open fire like that without burning, and also allows them to still get that really beautiful Maillard reaction. There's actually a little bit of chemistry involved here. So let's get into it. All right, so as mentioned before, let's go ahead and wash our meats here because this is store-bought meat. Of course, it's been treated with dyes. And if you wash it really well, you'll see how pale it gets. Clearly, it's not a fresh cut of meat with a myoglobin still in it. That's a dye that's been added. If you can look at the comparison between the unwashed versus washed, clearly a big difference. So let's go ahead and put this in our bowl off to the side here. And I'll show you the next steps. Once we get this side washed, we'll get our, look at that, look how pale it gets immediately. And it's not just myoglobin washing off. If you look inside there, it's quite a bit paler. Over here is a little bit better looking, but you can tell it's been treated. But no matter what, it's still going to be relatively healthy the way we're going to cook it. But definitely, there's no comparison between a fresh cut of grass-raised beef. We do have some other Romanians that live in our area that do raise beef, pigs, chickens, you name it. They have better land for it, better security for it. And I gotta tell you, man, fresh beef, oh yeah. It's no wonder that we as humans decided to domesticate and eat those things. You have no idea how delicious a fresh cut of beef, grass-fed, allowed to be free range, can actually be. Now granted, of course, it could be a little bit tougher if you let them free range, but man, the taste and the quality is well worth it. Not to mention that the animal is much happier during the raising process. And that's an important thing as well too. We're not just raising animals and harvesting the land to deplete it. Quite the contrary, actually. The homestead lifestyle, the hunter lifestyle, the outdoorsman lifestyle is really more about conservation and preservation than it is about taking. It may seem a little counterintuitive to people that are maybe watching at home that aren't in that sort of lifestyle or unfamiliar with it, but really, it looks like we're taking indiscriminately, but we're actually not. There's actually a lot of science, a lot of thought, and a lot of planning involved because we want that sustainability. We want the land to continue to produce. We want nature to continue to provide. And really, even when hunting, we try to select a very specific animal out of the herd for the herd's health. There's a lot of codes, regulations, and ethics that are involved in this. Same with raising animals. It's not a big factory production where we're trying to get the numbers out. We're trying to go for quality and ensure the animal's well-being, that they had a good lived life, because that not only puts a better quality into the actual final product, but also allows us to have that sustainability as well. So when you're living this sort of lifestyle, that is a key feature you need to keep in mind. And for people at home that maybe are unfamiliar with this sort of lifestyle is not about taking and destroying the land. I mean, what would be the logic behind that if you think about it? It's really about conservation, preservation, and sustainability. And that's what I really try to teach you guys here on this channel, which is really why I really go the organic route with things. Because not only does it preserve the land, not only does it bring the land back to where it was before it was logged, because this has been logged twice, this land, but it also protects our resources, our sustainability, and even our well for that matter. Yeah, we're on well water. You don't want a bunch of chemicals and crap going into it. So let's carry on with our steaky goodness here. I'm going to show you the next step. For the actual marinade part here, It's a very, very simple process, a very, very simple recipe, but highly effective and incredibly delicious. Let's go ahead and get our sleeves rolled up. I already got my hands washed before I touched everything else. We're gonna get dirty again anyway, but it's good to not cross-contaminate things. You want to try to avoid that as much as possible, especially if you're gonna have and eat raw veggies. So let's go ahead and move these guys out of the way here. All right, here we go. So all I do is I like to use the Montreal steak seasoning. This stuff tastes great. It works fantastic with wood smoke, which is the #1 thing here. We want to accentuate that wood smoke flavor, especially that we're going to be using some of those cherry rounds that I harvested earlier in the year. That's going to give it a beautiful, sweet, almost bacony-like flavor and taste, along with the maple, which is going to be the mainstay of the smoke production. Montreal does a fantastic job of it. I haven't found anything better that's pre-made, and honestly, I've been basically making it myself before I found this particular brand here. This is as close as I've ever found pre-made to what I used to make on my own. It works fantastic from Costco. Super easy, simple to use, no more mixing involved. Easy for you guys to do at home. Go ahead and take one of our steaks. I apologize for the camera angle's not the best here. And what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and just sprinkle it kind of heavy. And what we're going to do is we're going to first dry rub it into the meat itself. Now this may seem a little ironic because we're going to be also doing a liquid marinade here. And you think, well, isn't this going to wash off? It will wash some of it off, which is why we're going to add a little bit more than we think we actually need. But as you work it into the meat fibers, it will actually adhere in there. Plus, we're going to have to wait about an hour plus or so. And really, that's all the amount of time you really need for this particular marinade, because we're going to have to build up the fire and burn it down to a nice coal bed with a hot and cold side. And during that time, we might as well let our steaks marinate. So basically, you just want to get it a good rub like this. Try to work it into all the nooks and crannies. You don't need to have too much on there, because this is also very, very salty. So if you're going to use this blend, do not add extra salt, because it will ruin your meat. Even if you just add that little bit of touch, like that, whatever the salt-based style, well, you're going to ruin your cut. And you don't want to do that. And if you're curious about making your own at home like I used to do, basically I used to use like mustard seed, coriander, thyme, black pepper, parsley, a little bit of marjoram, oregano, and a little bit of salt and pepper, of course. Pepper I already mentioned, but salt and pepper. And that's kind of the basic mainstay of what I used to do. I used to also add some coriander for different cuts of meat, and that would give it that nice, beautiful smell. And then, of course, dill. So that's kind of a basic blend if you want to make one at home. You can just go strictly 1-to-1. You don't have to do anything special. You can add a little paprika if you like that flavor. I like to add the smoky one. That adds a little bit of smokiness to the meat, depending on what kind of cut I'm using. And especially for pork, it does really, really well. And especially if I don't have a chance to go outside on the grill, and instead I'm doing it in the pan, adding a little bit of that smoky paprika helps kind of give it that beautiful taste and smell. Next we're going to be using is granulated garlic. And there's a reason why I'm using this over fresh garlic. Normally I'm a huge fresh garlic guy. I'll cut up and crush the cloves, spread the oil over the meat, put the crushed cloves on the inside of every nook and cranny. And that's perfect if you're going to bake your meat or Dutch oven it. However, on an open fire, you don't want to use fresh garlic. It will actually burn too quickly and become very acrid. This stuff, being already dry and granulated, is a little bit more resistant to burning. It can still burn, so we're going to have to be careful. But anyway, we're going to have to be careful regardless when cooking our meat, because we don't want to singe it up too much. We just want to get that beautiful Maillard and a little bit of nice tasty crust. And that's it right there. Very, very easy. This is kind of how your end result is going to look like here. Now we're going to go ahead and move on to the liquid component. I'm going to wash my hands first because, greasy. I'm also moving in a little bit of a rush here because we are on a time crunch. Because I also have the rest of the Fuzzy fam coming over to celebrate for the dinner party. And we still have a lot of work left to do, like making the fire and getting the coal bed ready. That can take up to an hour or more in order to get it just right and ready for the steaks. And then also we have to prepare our veggies and get those up on the grill. Veggies will be super easy. We're just gonna cut them in half, boat style for the zucchini, because these later zucchinis have a big seed inside of them. They're not the little small seed bed like in the earlier younger zucchinis. The late stage on the end of the harvest will have bigger seeds, even if it's a small young zucchini in and of itself, because this is the time point when the plant is ready to reproduce and go ahead and spread its seed. So because of that, even if you pick them young, pick them small, you're still going to have a big seed bed. And unfortunately, that's also going to make that center part fall apart if you just cut it into normal slices or strips or into rounds. Instead, what we're going to do is a boat style and roast it like a whole boat. We're going to roast the entire eggplant as it is, just a little olive oil, a little bit of sea salt. Pink Himalayan does really, really well for zucchini and for eggplant. That's what I like to use. You can use just normal sea salt as well. Either one is going to be perfect. The key clincher here is that little bit of roast from the fire, from the coal bed, and that smoke. That flavor will penetrate all the way through, and it makes it a divine heaven to eat. All right, now time for the liquid part of the marinade. One of the key things I like to do here is a little bit of citrus, a little bit of vinegar, and a little bit of red wine. Now, when you're doing this, you don't have to use a good quality wine, just any sort of just basic cheap wine, cooking wine, whatever you like to use. Of course, if you use a better wine, it's going to add a little bit better flavor, but not by much. Mostly the wine is going to kind of cook off. The main reason why we're doing this is because it adds a little bit of sweetness and helps make a nice, beautiful little crust on top of the meat. Also, it helps to tenderize the inside of the meat and keep it moist and tender when it's cooking on an open fire grill. I like to use Cabernet Sauvignon because it does already have that natural smoky flavor. It also has notes of blackberry, of course grape, and it has a kind of a raisiny tone to it, which really helps accentuate the cherry wood and the maple smoke that we're going to be using. Now, very simple. Just pour some on there. Give it a nice little cover. We're going to be cutting this with a little bit of water, of course, to help it soak into the meat while we're doing the rest of the preparations for the fire. Easy. For the vinegar component, you can use a malt vinegar. This is going to be great. It's going to be very light. It smells like socks now. Your meat will not taste like a damn dirty gym sock. Don't worry, it cooks off. Now, if you really want to have a beautiful, very dark, very crisp, kind of almost caramelized flavor to the outer Maillard reaction, go ahead and use a balsamic vinegar, a dark one. I really like to use the Three Monks brand. It works incredibly well for an open fire. I'm out of that, unfortunately. But we do have our malt vinegar here, kind of a British style. And it's going to do the exact same job. Again, this is going to help tenderize the meat and also give it that little bit of an added flavor as well. Got that in there. There we go. Now we're going to add in a little bit of citrus. Just nice and simple. I'm going to use just a half a lemon, squeeze it in there. Again, citrus helps kind of break down those meat fibers, helps emulsify the fats, and allows the fat to kind of melt off a little more cleanly and actually melt into the rest of the meat itself and give it that kind of butteriness all the way through. Plus, believe it or not, lemons, when you cook them, turn very sweet. So it also adds a little bit of that sweetness to it. So the sourness tends to kind of go away when you're cooking and instead be replaced by a nice little gentle sweetness. And of course, you can even cut rounds in there if you so like. But for beef, I tend not to like to go too sour and too citrusy. Just a little bit extra there. Now, the reason why I do this kind of three-stage, kind of enzymatic reaction is because on an open fire, you can dry out your meat incredibly quickly and incredibly easily. Even if you're cooking on low heat on a bed of coals, the long cooking time will allow it to dry up, especially out in the open air like that. Basically vaporizes all the juices and even some of the fats off of it. Plus, you're going to lose some of your fats. It's going to drip off. And you don't want to use a pan or a Dutch oven because then you don't get this smoky flavor. So in order to kind of help emulsify the fats now, enzymatically, help it kind of melt off into the rest of the meat, help it retain into the meat, but also help it to create a nice shell on the outside really quickly. That's why we're using the red wine and the vinegar. Plus, it has the enzymatic component to it as well. Then we like to use the citrus to really help penetrate inside, give it that sweetness, and also help tenderize the meat fibers, keep them soft, keep them moist, and combined with that shell that forms very quickly using vinegar and wine, it helps seal all that in and also helps emulsify the fats and allows it kind of melt off into the rest of the meat like a nice butter. It just works perfectly, and that's kind of how I do my steak marinades. We're going to repeat the same process. Nothing is going to change at all with the New York strip steaks. This just works for every single cut of beef. Now, one key thing I forgot to mention earlier is when selecting your beef. When you go and select your beef, what you really want to do is get not just fatty beef. You don't want to just have fat on the outside. You want that, yes. But what you really want is marbling in the inside. You want plenty of strips of fat in there. And not all cuts are created the same. Matter of fact, not all steaks of the same cut are created the same. So you really need to shop around and look for ones that are not super fatty, like a whole bunch of fat in there, because then it gets really greasy and gross. But you want to have good distribution, even distribution of marbling all the way through your cut. And that's going to help melt off nicely. The outer shell here is going to do great to give it that nice butteriness and give it a nice little fry essentially on the outside. But really it's the marbling on the inside that's going to really be the money here. Now look at this. You can see how already that red wine and vinegar just splashed around. It really soaks into the meat and gives it a beautiful color and also beautiful taste, and will create that beautiful shell during the Maillard reaction. Now what we're going to do is going to cut it with a little bit of water. You don't want to wash directly onto your dry rub here. So go off to the side. Just kind of rinse it down in there. And this also helps it make the marinade not so heavy and harsh. Helps kind of dilute it a little bit, but also helps it get up into the fibers and soak in there. Perfect. And your dry rub, believe it or not, even with washing it down, stays on your meat fibers. That's why you want to add a little bit of extra, so that way you have that extra suspended in the solution to help soak in flavor-wise, but also you want to make sure you retain enough on your actual meat as part of the rub component. And there we go. Beautiful. Easy. Done. Look at this. Let me wash my hands again so I don't touch the camera with beef hands. And look at this. Beautiful. Just gorgeous. I mean, look how that meat just comes out to be a beautiful look. And it doesn't look like there's a lot of rub on there, and that's okay. That's all you need. Just that little bit. The rest will soak in and create that beautiful flavor. Now we're going to go ahead and cover this, put her in the fridge, and let her marinate for at least an hour or so until we build up our coal bed, and then we can get out there and start cooking. Let's get on it. But first, I also got to marinate the other ones. All right, so now that we got the steaks marinating, let's go ahead and get our fire set up. Now, because it is the dry season, as you can clearly tell, everything's pretty dry, we're going to take some little extra precautions here. And a lot of times on my films, you guys don't get to see the whole background of how I set everything up. So I'm going to be showing you that in today's episode. I'm also going to show you guys the kind of background safety measures that I take to make sure that we don't get things out of hand. Number one, of course, you got to have a kind of nice big walled, big fire pit kind of thing. Put it on the wettest grass you can find. Right now there's a mild burn ban, but you can put, barbecues and fires within fire pits. Those are okay as long as they're controllable. We do have a little bit of wind picking up here, slight breeze. So we want to keep away from the actual house and other structures, away from the tree. We're going to try to protect ourselves from getting stuff up. Right now it's still the fire season, and we already had some ragers going on in our local area. Thankfully the air is finally clear of smoke. Oh, it's been heavy smoke for like the last couple of weeks, but we're going to take some added precautions like I mentioned. Let's go ahead and I'll show you guys step by step how I do it to not only get a good fire going, do our cowboy barbecue, but also protect ourselves and protect the environment as much as we possibly can. You usually don't get to see in the background, but I do have a hose lined up, and I'm going to go ahead and charge this first. I'm going to go ahead and pre-wet the area around here quite a bit. Now our soil is sandy, so it does kind of drain off very quickly, but the main idea is to get the vegetation around here wet in a nice big circle all the way around. That way, in case we have any flyers or any sparks coming off of the fire, it's going to run less of a risk of starting up, and if it does slowly smolder, it gives us that added few seconds to be able to jump in there and intervene before things start getting out of hand. And then of course the other thing is we're going to build the fire by hand totally from scratch, so I'll show you how to do that step by step as well too. I'll show you a couple of interesting DIY kind of shortcuts to be able to get a good, hot, clean burning fire. Let's go ahead and finish our preparations here. I'll set you guys up and we'll get it done. All right, well, our very first steps here to any sort of barbecuing and fire building process is, well, we got to clean out the charcoal and the ashes of the previous fire. And there's a couple of reasons for that. Number one, of course, is you don't want that acridness of whatever wood was left in here, rained on, left outside. You don't want that flavor into your steaks. Number two is you actually want to have a clean area where air can flow. There's something very curious about this that I want to show you guys. Check this out. You see this bit down here? That pipe down there is not a drain. This is kind of like a piton tube. Essentially, it's a breather. This actually allows air to come up to a hole here in the base and allows you to actually get that convection current, which is going to allow your fire to breathe and actually burn nice, hot, and smoke less. You may be saying, well, don't we want it to smoke? We're smoking our meats, right? That is actually going to come later on towards the end of the fire building process once we have our coal bed set up. During the actual fire building and coal bed production process, we actually want it to be a hot, smokeless fire. A couple of reasons for that. One, not only is it going to help limit some pollution into the airspace here and keep our environment much more pristine, but as with most places that are rural these days, there's a lot of invasion of neighborhoods. We do have neighborhoods in the area. We don't want to smoke them out. Of course, it is 100% legal right now to do barbecues and fire pits and so forth. It's only a mild burn ban, but still, it's an added hassle that we don't want to deal with. And I'm sure neither do you guys want to at home. What we're going to have to do is a smokeless, hot burning fire will also help dry out our wood, because our wood is stored outside. Even though it's covered, it still will gather some moisture from the air. So we want to have it hot enough to dry that wood out, get a nice good burning fire, and be smokeless as much as possible for those reasons that I had just mentioned. We'll go ahead and get this guy cleaned out here. We'll get our area prepped around here. We'll go ahead and get the wood prepped, and I'll show you how I build a fire in a quick, easy DIY way that ensures a good hot burn. All right, so now of course your ashes are very, very useful. There's a lot of what they call pot ash or wood ash, which is high in potassium, especially if you want to recondition your soil organically, especially recondition very depleted and poor previously logged soil. Potash is a great, useful thing that's basically free. You might as well use it. So we're going to take this out, put it in the bucket, and we're actually going to toss it into the compost pile for next year's plow under. And we'll have another delicious garden growing right out of it, right from stuff off the land. So let's go ahead and collect our goodies here and go ahead and take her over to the garden space. Woo! Gotta make sure I don't breathe in any dust and ash on my lungs here, because although it's good for the garden, it ain't good for your lungs. And that's the last thing you want, because once this ash touches the moisture of your lungs, it basically turns into cement. It's something that's really hard and difficult to cough up. Look at them goodies in there. Look how beautiful that is. All this is high in potassium. It's okay if you have some unburnt wood. Actually, we might even reuse this for the fire. I'll keep those. But look at all that beauty in there. That's full of potassium, calcium, all kinds of goodies, nitrates, everything a garden needs to thrive organically. So we're gonna go ahead and add it over to our pile. Let's head over to the garden. It's just amazing how some very, very simple organic reconditioning could really just change this poor, dusty, sandy soil into something that just thrives. I mean, just amazing. Everything is a little wilty right now because it needs the water stuff, but it's a little hot right now to do the watering. You never want to water directly in the heat. There we go. Add that in there. All this beauty here. All that will be brought back into the soil for next spring's plow under. And that's the glory of it. All right, let's head back and finish our fire duties. So now that we got that cleaned out, you can see what I was talking about earlier. Our breather hole is somewhere over here, right there. See how clogged up that is. There's no way our fire can breathe. So what you want to do is you want to take a nice stiff wire and run that through until it clears all the way out, and you could get at least some airflow through there. You may not get 100% clean, that's fine, but you need it to breathe. You need that convection current coming up from underneath in order to get your fire nice, hot, and smokeless for the beginning stages. So that's pretty self-explanatory. I don't think I need to demonstrate for you guys. I'm pretty sure you can understand how to run a wire through a hole. I'm gonna go ahead and take care of that off screen, and then we'll move on to the more interesting parts, which is actually the fire building process itself. Go ahead and get some more wood out from our storage area here. And then we can go ahead and get our wood prepped up and ready. And then we'll go ahead and moisten up our entire surrounding area there in a nice, at least 3-4 foot arc to ensure that we don't have any spark over and catching the grass up on fire. You'll be amazed how quickly a grass fire will spread and get entirely out of hand. So we want to try to avoid that as much as possible. Even if it starts sparking up a little bit and smoldering, well, at least it buys us a little bit of time to be able to react to it and intervene before it starts spreading like crazy. Because I don't know if you guys have ever seen dry grass sparking up and burning. It doesn't just burn in a straight line, it starts arcing out. And it's going to be a lot of area to cover real quick. So you want to try to avoid that as much as possible. Here we go. Bang! Look at that. I'm trying to keep the chopping organized kind of next to the tree here, because that way at least I don't run the lawnmower over some wood bits and fling it into the windows of the house. That's another key thing to keep in mind if you're going to split out in the outdoors like this. Keep it organized in a place where you're not accidentally going to run it over with a lawnmower, or people are not going to trip or step on it. So that's why we're doing it over here, because this is less likely to be tracked next to than out here in the main field area. We're going to do kind of a pretty standard campfire strategy here. We're going to get some small kindling, some bigger kindling, and then we're going to get some larger kind of split log sections to kind of build it up in a pyramid to get it started. And then we're going to build up our logs in kind of a Scandinavian or Swedish chimney style. That way we have the convection current working in our favor, and it keeps it hot burning and keeps it basically self-propagating. Once we spark it off, it pretty much just goes on its own. Now I do have the leaf blower at hand there in case we need a little extra oomph just to get it moving, and especially if it starts smoking up, we can get the smoke kind of burned off really quick. So let's go ahead and get ready. I got a nice splitting axe here, which is different than a chopping axe. I want you guys to pay attention here to the head shape. Look how those cheeks puff out like that. Now a chopping axe is going to have a much thinner beard here, much thinner face, and it's going to have a much smoother and much more elongated and less puffy cheeks. So you want to have a chopping axe kind of chop through like a katana. With this, you want to have big cheeks to basically push the wood out of the way. For a splitting axe, you don't need it to be super sharp either, just enough to basically wedge itself in between the wood fibers and split it open. Now, of course, it's ideal to be chopping onto a chop block. I'm not going to use one. I really haven't been using one for a long time. You just got to be careful not to ding it into the ground. This soil is pretty soft. Right here by the tree is very few rocks to ding into. And this is kind of a dedicated splitting axe anyway. I'm not too terribly concerned. But for you guys at home, if you have just one axe or one or two axes, you want to preserve them, better to do it on a chopping block instead of doing it out here on the dirt. But I'll demonstrate this way because this is the way I do it. Now, of course, if you're going to use a chop block, you don't want to use one of your other woods here that are cut in an angle like this. You're actually going to let the wood roll, and you're going to cause more injury and danger to yourself. Now, when you're splitting wood, you want to look at not just where the cracks are, but look which way the fibers are running. See, the fibers run this way even though we have a crack here. We'll take advantage of this crack now to split this section off, but the rest of them we're going to shear with the grain of the wood itself. It's going to make your life a hell of a lot easier that way. It's a little bit rotted, but that's okay. This actually will catch up a lot easier and quicker than other more dense woods. See, as long as I get this started here. There we go. That's it. You can see I'm not really going all the way down to the ground because you don't really need to. Just enough to just fracture off pieces of wood, and then we'll cut those into more kindling-like shapes. There we go. Now we can start shaving it down to kindling. There we go. Get some little pieces here as well too. Now the other reason why I don't recommend doing it this way for you guys at home is because, well, I'm pretty comfortable with how I'm doing it and pretty comfortable with using my axe. And of course, it's not a very sharp axe to begin with. Now, of course, you don't want to be swinging all the way down with your hand in the way there. That's why you see me just getting it started up, get it kind of bound onto the blade here. And then I get my hand the hell out of the way and then drive it through. You don't want to drive all the way down with your hand anywhere near it. But that's how you can chop onto the ground without sinking your axe all the way in and ruining your blade. All right. So we've got a few pieces here. Let's get a few smaller strips going up. This is pretty dry, so this should work pretty damn well. You see, you don't need a lot of force. This is not even a sharp axe, but if you work with the grain, it makes your life a heck of a lot easier. See, I'm going against the grain right now, a lot harder. Go with the grain, much easier to wedge in, and there you go. You barely need any force to do it. So that's the key feature there. All right, I think we got enough small bits here. Let's get this organized. Got some bigger bits here off to the side. Got some good starter bits here. Those starter chunks. And we should be good to go. Let's go ahead and get some bigger ones prepped and ready so we have everything at hand. Good. See, not at once in the entire time did I have to go all the way through to the ground and hit the ground. But again, this takes a lot of practice, and you have to be pretty confident and comfortable with your aim and with your axe. So that's why I'd recommend, if you're not very comfortable doing that, don't try it this way at home. Use a chopping block, get it stabilized, get out of the way, then swing through. But this is one way you can do it out in the field, out in the woods, out on the range, if you're out there camping or on horseback or wherever you are, and you just need to make quick fire. That's a technique you can use. Anyway, let's go ahead and build up our fire now and get it ready. Now here is a great survival tip and survival strategy that I always like to use in case I ever got caught up in an emergency, and it also works great for just starting up a campfire at home. Cardboard, corrugated cardboard specifically, that type with the airspace in between. I always keep some crushed up boxes in the back of Super Jank, because that's my outdoor overlanding rig, at all times. And that's because this stuff catches up easily, maintains a flame, and once it gets going, it burns very, very hot entirely on its own. No accelerants needed. That's a great way to get a fire started, even if you're having to deal with wet wood out there in the wilderness. So it's always a great idea. Keep some crushed up boxes in your truck, in your overlanding rig, in case you ever need to start a fire. Not just that, but having cardboard in your truck is a great way to have a platform to be able to slide up underneath if you need to fix something, give yourself a little comfort or padding on the ground. You can even use this stuff, shred it up, and pack it into your shirt or jacket to keep warmer should you ever get stranded out there. Cardboard is just an ultimate, cheap, easy, and fantastic piece of survival kit that I keep at all times and use regularly when I'm out there in the field. So that's what I recommend, especially if you go to Costco. Keep these boxes, crush them down, keep them flat on the bottom floor of your load deck of your rig. You'll always have fire starting available, insulation or padding at all times. Right there, packed easy, flat, out of the way. Your best piece of survival gear is the one you're gonna take with you. So if it's too bulky, too fancy, too whatever, and you don't carry it every single time, well, when you need it, you just won't have it. So cheap, easy, does a lot. Anyway, I'll show you how I start my fire and get it built up here. Whew! As you can probably see and hear, we have the wind picking up already. We got kind of an east to west wind, which is okay, but tends not to be great in this area. That tends to be a lot stronger of a breeze, and that tends to be what we like to call the fire breeze, because that tends to be very, very dry, very, very fast moving air, can spread a fire extremely quickly. So because of that, we're really gonna have to do our moistening and get a nice wet circle all the way around to assure that we don't spark up the grass and have a pain in our ass. So let's get on it. We also gotta be cautious because our well is low this season. It's been very, very dry all summer long. And when you survive on a well, well, it's not a good deal. So I'm gonna be glad when the rains return. Not only will it help our garden, help our trees, but it'll also help some of these with a little bit more water to drink. That's going to be a good and powerful resource to have. Anyway, let's use what we need to use and no more, just to wet the vegetation down. What we're doing here is we're not watering the lawn. We don't need the grass to be green. We don't need it to be pretty. And we don't need to actually soak the soil so much itself. What we want to do is soak up and wet, especially the dry vegetation, so it doesn't spark up so easily. And that will buy us, like I mentioned, that extra little bit of time to be able to react should we have any flare-offs, sparks, or anything kind of flying around. And of course I picked a little bit of a greener spot, still away from any structures here, to give myself a little bit better chance right here by the base of the fire pit. But still, especially with this wind picking up, well, last thing we need is flying ashes, flying sparks, or pieces of burning wood or paper or anything flying off and causing us some problems. Oops, got the cardboard wet a little bit. That's okay. And just give it a good thorough dousing. Keep everything nice and wet. Keep the hose charged and ready at hand, just in case you need it. Because when you're dealing with a grass fire especially, well, seconds are absolutely crucial. Before you know it, those seconds will get away from you. All right. Should be pretty good for our initial startup here. Let's go ahead and get this guy out of the way. Keep the nozzle here right at hand. Perfect. All right, and you can see our soil holds on to water immediately, but then it drains off super quick. That's all we need to do. Just get that dry grass soaked up so it just will not spark off very easily. And if it does, it buys us those added crucial seconds that we need to be able to intervene before it all goes to shit. So let's go ahead and start building up our fire now. The other added benefit of using cardboard as a fire starting strategy is even if it gets a little damp or a little moist, because it has that corrugated insides there which tend to stay dry, unless it's absolutely soaked through, it will still light up, catch on, and burn. It kind of dries itself out as it catches on slowly, and it keeps accelerating and burning hotter and hotter as it goes through. So it's a great thing, like I mentioned, to have in your survival toolkit, especially if you're out there overlanding and going out in your rig. So let's go ahead and get ready and set up here. All right, so what I want to do is I want to kind of keep the top of the box up like this, and we're going to build our fire kind of starting up and around this area here. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut off a section here to kind of keep like a little bit of an oven. Now, the knife I'm using here is called Baron Son from Bespoke Post. What I like about it is it's a very strong liner lock knife and nice G10 handles, which are very sturdy, nice and grippy. But most importantly, I love the assisted flip out. Now, I don't know if that could be legal necessarily in your area, but man, is it so nice to have a one-handed, nice, big, sharp blade. That's the other thing. The steel is very good in this and very sharp, holds an edge very nicely. But it's just so nice to whip it out of the pocket, quick, easy. You got it deployed, and you got it good to go. Man, this thing I haven't sharpened in about, I don't know, 6 months or so of constant use. I mean, certainly it's got some dull spots on it, but dang, I tell you, if it ain't sharp, but dang, I gotta tell you, man, it's performing pretty darn good. Oh, it's a double layer in there, that's why. I was kind of wondering what the heck was happening there. But dang, I tell you, this thing is sharp and pretty damn good. Not too bad for just a little, 3.5-inch blade, little pocket knife. All right, so now we kind of got a little oven door thing here. We're gonna go ahead and cut out the back side here so we have some breathing hole. And this, the other benefit is that also, especially in windy weather, will keep the strongest part of the breeze off of your very fragile fire, but still allow airflow and air to be introduced to be able to catch it up nice and hot, but keeps it essentially, when you have just a nice little ember going, from getting it totally blown out. So because we got our wind kind of coming east to west, we're going to face it kind of that way. There we go. Now our next step is we're going to build up inside here, inside of our little oven door area. Right here, we're going to build up a little bit of a bed of cardboard. Let's go ahead and rip our box up here. Try to stay in front of the camera best I can. And this time we're going to rip because we want to get that fuzziness exposed on the corrugated side of the cardboard. Kind of crush it, rip it, get it opened up a little bit. Same with this side here. And just kind of keep working it through until you get these little nice strips and bits and pieces, and kind of ripped up and nice and fuzzed like that in there. And that catches up super easy, super nice. So let's go ahead and build up a little bed in there. I'm going to keep one piece here as a kind of a fire torch to be able to light this thing off. Because right now I'm going to be not using a torch, I'm going to be using just a normal lighter. See that nice exposed fuzzy area there? Makes it very quick, very painless process here. Now you don't want to have it lying flat because you want it to be able to, like I said, breathe. So we're going to kind of build it up in a little bit of a pyramid shape here. And not only will this help protect that initial fire, but as it builds up higher and higher, it catches this up and really starts accelerating and growing. And that's where we're going to have kind of our wood, our more bigger kindling pieces, stacked up against in kind of a pyramid shape. And then we're going to kind of build up our larger kind of split down logs along the side there and kind of build it up in kind of a little bit of a chimney style shape. So we're going to start with a pyramid and go to a chimney. Now this I'm going to use to spark it off, so I'll keep that aside. You want to try to not have them laying flat on top of each other here. Alright, just a nice little bed to start. You want to have a little hole there to introduce your fire, because fire likes to burn from bottom up. So if you get it started from the bottom up, it burns way more efficiently and catches up a lot better and doesn't tend to snuff itself out. Fire doesn't really like to burn so much from top down. Now candles and stuff, it works that way because you have a fuel that is basically vaporizing, and it's actually the vapors that are catching on that are kind of going along the body of the wick. It's not actually the fats and the oil so much that's necessarily burning. And so in order to do that, you have to have enough fire to get it to start vaporizing and get that to catch on. That's why something like a Zippo lighter catches on super quick, because if you smell that fuel, it's very volatile. That's also why your Zippo lighter dries up inside if you leave it sitting around for a while, even if it's not open, because it's a very volatile fuel. It volatilizes very quickly. And basically your wick is just soaking that stuff up and then letting it to vaporize and volatilize into the air, and that's what catches up. Candle, same way, but the candle, you have to get the fire on it first to get that wax melting and starting to vaporize along the body of the wick. Now what's nice about this is we don't have to deal with any of that. It's actually just an active, actual burn. So once you get it lit, it just kind of does its own thing. So now we're going to get some wood, kind of add it into here as well too. Again, leave our little door here. And this way, because once cardboard gets going, it gets going real fast. There we go. I can get a little bit larger pieces in there. This way we have something to kind of get dried up from the cardboard burning, and then have something that actually gives it some body to actually catch up on here. And again, we're kind of building it up in that pyramid style shape here. That's going to be our fire entry point, is that little door right there. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and give it some bigger pieces here to have it something to kind of build up into, and then the rest will catch on over here on the outside. This guy this way. Give us a little bit of a window so we can get in there. Okay, gonna have to get more wood. All right, let's keep on building up our structure here. Get our bigger pieces kind of here in the back side. Make sure we leave our back door open so we got airflow coming in. A few more bits here we can add in. We don't want to block up our main entry point there. Now, of course, the best way to build up a fire is to have your preparation ready. Kind of introduce here. Kind of leave them off to the side. There we go. There we go, one on top of there. There you go. So this way, once we have the fire kind of built up and roaring, we can kind of kick those bigger logs as they dry up and get kind of flame primed to kind of kick them over and start building up our fire a little bit more. And we'll start building it into a kind of a tighter, almost chimney shape. and let it kind of build up and get our fire burning down. It's gonna take a lot of wood to build up a good, long-lasting bed of coals to not only do our steaks, but also we gotta roast our veggies too. So we're gonna need some fire that lasts a while. Anyway, let's go ahead and spark this sucker off. So all I'm using for this, just a Zippo lighter on a gas insert. So this is using butane gas here because it's a lot easier to deal with in a breezy environment than oil-based, petroleum-based kind of lighter fluid. Now again, we're not using any lighter fluid in here at all. This is all just cardboard and dry wood. To really have good success, it's all about preparation. So if preparations A through G fail, well, you're gonna be on preparation H, which feels better on the whole. Comment below if you remember that reference. Yeah, baby. Okay, let that get caught up a little bit there. Go ahead and introduce it down in here. And that's it. Now we just let her do her thing. Easy peasy, Mr. Squeezy. And that's it. Now, of course, we're gonna get our blower ready in case we need to kind of give it a little more airflow, but it should start catching on here pretty good. Don't worry about toxins or other things because those are gonna burn off pretty quickly in the cardboard here. And usually this kind of more bare cardboard doesn't have a lot of ink and other stuff added to it anyway. So it should be all right. Takes a second for it to get going. But as you notice, that was just one light off, and that's it. So if you have just a limited number of matches, it's a great way of doing it. If you have a limited amount of gas, great way of doing it. Limited amount of lighter fluid, great way of doing it. Overall, it's just a great way of doing it. I'm gonna let that kind of close over the door space there a little bit, that'll be fine. Anyways, plenty of airflow. You can see how it's already coming up to the top here through those breather holes. Perfect. Don't want to melt off the camera, that's for damn sure. This is my only camera. Hopefully we can make this channel kind of self-sustaining, and I maybe could buy a DJI. Ooh, here it goes. Now it's really going. See how quickly it starts catching up? And it burns hot. That's the beauty of it. Dries up the wood, gets it going real quick and easy. And see how it kind of feeds itself in as it starts falling down, falling in, starts feeding itself there. May have to readjust a little bit sometimes, but that's okay. There we go. And take more of the pyramid shape, kind of get this stuff together. Pretty much fell pretty much to space right there, exactly where I liked it, so that's pretty good. Just a minor adjustment, not a big deal. You hear that kind of boiling noise there? You could tell that the wood is still a little wet, despite being covered, seasoned, and dried. No matter what, if it's outside, it's gonna get some moisture from the air. It just does. So that's why you wanna use a little bit of cardboard to kick her off and get her hot. And look at that, pretty much the smoke has disappeared. You can see the heat waves coming off. That is just hot, hot, hot. Oof, I really feel it from here. You see the heat waves. I don't know if it shows up on camera. I'll try to zoom in so you guys can see it easier. Whew, whoa, damn. That's it. One spark off. Quick, easy. Let's go ahead and move the rest of the cardboard away from here. I was using this as a stand for you guys. Let's get this out of the way so we don't catch that up. There we go. There, got it. I'll keep some strips at hand just in case we need them. Oh, gotta get the rest of this cardboard out of the way. Forgot about that. Shit, that could have been bad. All right, there we go. And there you go. Now we're just gonna use our fire stick to readjust whenever needed. That's it. We're just gonna get the rest of the wood kind of prepared and get her off on the side. I put some big chunks there because I wanted to kind of start burning slow on those bigger ones. Have kind of a hot side, which is gonna be that side of the fire. This side will be a little bit cooler, and then we can kind of spread the ashes around. And have some bigger logs that as they burn down, we can kind of reintroduce some more hot ash into places where we need to. Cool. One quick and easy spark off. That's all you need. I mean, it took me a couple of strikes to make sure I had gas in the thing. It was almost out, to be honest. But yeah, once I got that little paper lit and put it in there, that was it. No more intervention. Didn't even need the blower. See, because it creates convection, protects it from the wind, but still allows airflow. And there you go. Easy. That's why cardboard is such a great survival strategy to pack in the back of your overlanding rig. Not only that, but you can crush it down, like I mentioned, to be a pad, rip it up into your shirt, jacket for extra insulation. It's just so useful, and it's so cheap and so plentiful. I mean, just Jesus, get a few boxes, flatten them down, keep them. You're good to go. Look at that baby. Oh yeah. All right, so what I'm gonna be doing next now is I'm gonna just kind of trim up some more, these bigger logs here, kind of section them down into maybe quarters from that size, and just kind of build up the fire and just kind of let her go. I'm gonna go ahead and kick some of this in a little bit more to the center with the fire stick. There we go, kind of keep her feeding in You want it to kind of build it so it kind of falls into itself and kind of self-feeds. That's kind of the benefit of that kind of Swedish style or Swedish ideology behind fire making, is it basically is self-feeding and self-protecting. Whew, that is hoot. I'm gonna go prep the rest of the wood, and that's pretty self-explanatory, so I'll let you guys go from here, and we'll rejoin as, well, we get ready to do some barbecue. All right, so here's a little update on the fire. I added in some more wood, and I kind of messed it up a little bit in terms of the Swedish chimney idea. The base kind of collapsed a little bit quicker than I intended it to. But nonetheless, it's a little goofed up, but it does seem to work. And I'm going to show you kind of the principle behind that idea of the Scandinavian chimney fire. Well, chimney, fire, chimney, whatever. Anyway, this is kind of your idea. Ooh, that flared up pretty hot there. You can see how I kind of split up the bigger pieces, so they're kind of cracked open. And the way I laid them, oh, this is really, really hot. Jesus Christ. Can't even get my hand close there to demonstrate. Jesus. You see what the idea is you have those slits in between, kind of blocked up with your bigger logs. And you have them propped up, so you have a base entry point here for the fire, and then your kind of chimney outlet over here. And what that does is it creates the convection current. Ooh, that is freaking hot, damn. And it creates that correction. It creates that convection current that pulls the air up underneath into your burning material, up through your bigger logs that provide protection from any air blowing it out, but also give it that narrow slit. So it accelerates the gases coming up, which also spark up and burn. Really what's mostly burning are actually the gases that are released from your wood, more so than the wood itself. Yes, the wood itself is burning, but it's also the gases, the wood gases that are being released. That's why if you've ever seen those kind of redneck engineering things where they use a wood fire and wood smoke to run a gasoline engine off of, same principle. It's those wood gases that are highly combustible and very, very volatile. And this is what kind of builds off of that principle here. So by having that narrow slit of the vents here, with a little bit of a chimney area, open base where air can flow in, you're basically using your stuff inside there to burn up, release gases, and it accelerates the gases as the convection current comes in and pulls out and draws in more cold air, and also combusts the actual gases up through here. So this way you get a total complete burn, no smoke, and it's basically self-feeding this way, because as these burn, they kind of collapse in, or you can push them in if you need to. But if you do it right, it should collapse on its own, which it did. Just collapsed in the wrong way. I didn't exactly do it 100% the way it should be done, but it seems to work. But you get the idea. So as it collapses, it kind of collapses in on itself, self-feeds, and this way also gives it plenty of protection to the actual fire itself, while still giving breathing room. Like I said, accelerates the airflow, so it draws in more air, and also gives you those accelerated gases, wood gases, to combust, gives you a complete smokeless burn, or near smokeless burn. You can see how the gases are being released right over there on the wood. Look at that. It looks like smoke, but those are smoke and gases. But you see how immediately it gets combusted off. It gets immediately burned up. And you see how the fire flares up like that? That's the kind of the overall idea here. So it's kind of like a half wood, half gas stove now. And it's just self-propagating. It just basically takes care of itself from here at this point forward. And it also gives you a nice long burn time as well too. So there you go. A little bit of cardboard, a little bit of ingenuity. You can survive just about damn near anything. And that's what this channel is all about. That's why it's the Fuzzy Fixer. I'm a fuzzy guy who fixes you with the information, techniques, and tutorials that you need to know to not only survive anything, but regain your independence in 2025, regain your power, and most importantly, become entirely independent and sovereign from anybody or anything else. Whether it's out here in the brush, whether it's in the kitchen, whether it's under your truck, or whether it's just about teaching about science, history, culture, and commentary, so you guys get the information you need. That's what the Fuzzy Fixer is here to do. And I'm also a fuzzy guy, so a fuzzy fixer, fixer, like the connection, and fuzzy, and well, the. I haven't figured out the part yet, but nobody else claimed that name, so I am technically the Fuzzy Fixer, the only one, and the one that has that name. Hence the. Anyway, check that sucker out. So even with this wind now bustling pretty heavy, I mean not heavy, but yeah, it's a stronger breeze, the fire is not affected. It's not changing course, it's keeping hot, it's burning steady, it's not doing weird flare-ups. But you can see, look how that gas is off the charcoal-y part of the log is basically kind of sublimating off and just getting combusted immediately. And that sucker is hot. I mean, frickin' A, that is hot. I gotta get way back here. Oh, Jesus. Anyway, there you go, guys. I'm going to continue building this thing up into the coal beds. I'm going to let the GoPro here cool off and charge. GoPro likes to overheat and freak out and corrupt all my files. I don't like that happening because I lost so much data already and so many great films. And I also don't want to melt it. Holy crap, it actually melted the plastic around the lens. Took that out. Anyway, I'll let you guys charge up for a bit. We'll rejoin as we get ready to cook our steaks. Just like our previous Cowboy Grill episodes. Last one of the summer season. There you go. Oh, today we're also going to be doing veggies, and we harvested the walnuts. I got to show you guys how we take care of walnuts the old school way in a Taste of Transylvania series using this fire. Actually, let me show you guys something here real quick. Whew. That bitch is hot. Can't even get around it anymore. Anyway, I want to show you guys something. Check this out. You know what that is? That's a walnut. I got a little gold mine going on here. Got one right there. I got one right there within hand. One way over there. I don't know if I can get that one. Don't see any under the skirt here. Nope. All right, let's go after this one. There you go. Ladder. There you go. There. Missed. That's how a walnut looks like off the tree. And you may say, well, that doesn't look like a walnut. It looks like a fruit. That's because it is. Walnuts are actually the fruits of the walnut tree. What you're actually eating when you're eating walnuts is actually the seed inside the fruit. So when you're cracking the seed open, you see the membrane? That's basically the walnut tree embryo that you're eating. What you buy in the store and eat is actually the embryo, which is inside of the seed, which is inside of a fruit. So this is actually how it looks like when it ripens off the tree. And how you know these are ripe is because they start rotting off. The shell starts rotting off. And you want that to happen. Once it starts getting to this rotting point is when you're going to go ahead and roast them over an open fire, like we're doing here. Then you can actually dry up and also smoke up the actual nut itself, the actual seed, and that's going to be your nice, tasty, edible parts. And that's how you process these guys. You can deshell them with machines, you can do other things, but this is going to be the traditional Transylvanian way that we do it. Is actually we pick them when they start getting a little bit rotten like that, and before they start rotting all the way through, we're going to go ahead and roast and burn off the shell, and it also helps preserve and smoke the actual seed itself. Because believe it or not, without treatment, walnut seeds will rot. They're just a seed. As a matter of fact, it's wet and gooey on the inside. So you need to dry that up to actually ferment, to actually make it firm on the inside into an edible sort of meat that you can actually eat. And that's what you actually are eating in the store. And that's what we got to get going on this guy here. So we got to go ahead and dry these guys out, roast off the husk, and go ahead and smoke and preserve the actual meat itself so it lasts throughout the winter. No, normally in the factories and stuff, they're going to have big kind of ovens to dry them out, and they have chemical treatment processes that kind of do the same thing. This is going to be the natural and traditional Transylvanian way that we've done for thousands of years. So that's the interesting part about this. Now you may say, well, if it's a fruit, why doesn't it ripen like a fruit? Well, domesticated walnuts, for whatever reason, their genetics that have been developed over thousands of years, they don't ripen the fruit. They just stay in a green state like this. But wild walnuts will actually turn bright red and quite juicy, and they'll actually be kind of a juicy little fruit. Now see this one, see, you got little worms in there. That's the other thing too, is you want to fry up all that outside there. These are just little natural little worms. These are actually the maggots of the walnut blight, and those little critters actually make those little bumps and stuff on the leaves of the walnut. Now those are okay, those are not going to harm anything. They sometimes can burrow into the seed itself, but usually they're just eating the husk part itself here, the rotting part here. These are actually super helpful creatures that actually use these. When we pick the walnuts, we let them sit for a while and let them chew up and rot off this kind of husky part, and then we roast them and kill them off in the fire. And then that's how we kind of preserve them. And that's the overall whole process. But I'm sure worms will freak you guys out, so I'm going to kick them off for now. But anyway, wild ones will turn bright red and be very, very juicy, and certain animals can, in fact, ingest them. Things like rodents and certain types of native European deer can potentially eat them in small quantities. Walnut, the actual meat, the actual plant, and the actual fruit itself are actually somewhat toxic, and very, very toxic actually in this green state. Now, most animals cannot ingest these the green husks and stuff and the green leaves. As a matter of fact, if animals fall asleep underneath a walnut tree, the walnut itself actually releases gases that have even actually killed people that have fallen asleep under the walnut tree because it's so pleasant to sleep under a walnut tree. It's beautiful shade and it smells divine. That smell are volatile oil-based chemicals, and those can actually be very toxic. And unfortunately, we've actually found people in the village dead underneath a walnut tree. They fell asleep there, and unfortunately the gases took their effect and killed them. And we've found deer dead that way before. It's very, very toxic plant potentially. And they do that so it acts like an herbicide and kills their competitors. That's why you often don't see much of anything growing underneath or next to a walnut tree. As you see here on ours, even the grass underneath is dead. And it's not just because of shade, not just because the walnut tree takes the nutrients away, it's actually because of the gases. Those gases are a natural herbicide and also a natural pesticide. Quite interesting. So in their green state like this, they're incredibly toxic. Do not eat them like this, and don't feed them to pigs or animals or anything like that. Wild ones, as they ripen, the toxin tends to die off a little bit. Just enough so animals can eat a few of them and be okay. But don't eat a lot of them. There's another reason why you have to roast them and treat them. This fermenting process here, this kind of rotting, is actually a type of fermenting process. Helps convert a lot of those oils into a much more edible state. And then when you roast them, it burns off the rest of the oils, volatilizes them into the air, gets them off of the fruit, makes it totally safe and preserved and good to eat. Anyway, that's some science and some walnuts there. Ain't that nuts? See, and this is why it is important to pre-soak your area and have your hose at hand and ready. I mean, literally, just a little chunk popped out of there when the wood had popped and exploded, landed right there, and in that split second, just to run right here, to grab the hose and scorch it down. Look how quickly it spread. But fortunately, if I didn't wet this area down, and look at that. Whew. But fortunately, if I didn't already pre-soak that area and have the hose ready and charged at hand, you can imagine how quickly that could have got out of hand. That is why it's important to practice that safety. Have your hose pre-charged and pre-soak your area, because even if your grass does catch up, because it will if the fire is hot enough, but at least that buys you those extra few seconds you need to get it under control. You saw how quickly that just spread out. That was about a second for me to go from that position to grab the hose, to put it out. 1.5, 2 seconds maybe. That's how quick it spreads, despite pre-soaking and everything. That's why it's important to do that step and have your hose charged and ready at hand, especially when you're doing any sort of barbecuing or open fire cooking during the fire season and the dry season, especially end of summer out here in the West. So, keep you guys safe, okay? And that is why I teach you how to do this stuff. Look at that. Big cherry halves. Beautiful steaks. That's spicy. Marinade left a little bit of fat in there. Yeah. Nice and smoky goodness. Sizzling goodness there. Let's get a little sear going. Nice cherry rounds. Still up. Yeah. Oh, that delicious smoke coming off them. Delicious. Yum and yummer. Sear going. Side is coming alive. Oh, that's a big boy. Big old steak right there. There we go. Let those go for a little bit. Yeah. Oh yeah, look at it. Smoky goodness. That is smoking up nice. Oh yeah, it's coming along real nice. Get them sizzling. Oh yeah, got a nice little sear on it. This one looks pretty good too. Yeah. Let's do a little time on that one. Let's do this side here. Let's do one more time. That one needs a lot more time. Okay. Let's see this guy. A lot more time. Okay. This one needs a lot more time. All right. Whew. I see. Let's see what this makes. Look at the poopers. We got poopers visiting us. Walnuts are roasting over an open fire. Yum. That's a little beef marinade. I gotta get rid of it anyway. I'll give it a little bit of smoky flavor to them. There we go. There we go. Just gonna flip my nuts around. Where the hell did I put my stick? There it is. Waka-paka. Roast it up, burn off all the bugs and the skin. Boy, that was acrid as soon as I put them on there. There's a whole cloud of acridness. Hey, lost the nut. Yeah. Come on. Get him. Hey, get back on there, you. Gotcha. Acrid. Okay, let's see. The shell's almost off. Gotta put this fatter one in there. Let's chip the shell off. Yeah, look at that. Beautiful walnut in there. Look at that gorgeous little walnut. Let's get the rest of the shell off here. There, gotta burn them a little bit more. Hey, what'd you do? Let's see if we can get the skin off here. It's looking pretty good. All right. That one's gonna roast a little bit more. Nutty! Hey, Nutty! You looking at my nuts? Yeah, looking at my nuts? Hey, hey! Get out of there, you! It's licking the meat juice. See if this one is any good on the side. Let's see, get the peel off. Oh yeah, it looks pretty healthy inside. I don't know. I'll wait to tell us to crack them open and see. See all those yucky wormies are all baked now. Oh, look at that, perfect nut. Looking good. Okay, that one looks nice. Let's go and pull that nut off. I need a basket for my nuts. Yeah. Shelling the nuts, shelling the nuts. See this one done? That's a thick shell on this one, a thick husk. Dante pooped earlier. There we go. Oof, gotta shell each one of these suckers now. That one's in good. Oh, look at that. It's very good underneath. That looks good. A bit of husk still left, that's okay. Yeah. Hey, Milo. Hi, Milo puppy. Hi. How are you? Milo pup. Say hi. Hi. See, some from here. Oh, this one looks alright. Let's see. Oh, that's hot. Go get it! Go get it! Go get it! Go get it! Not a goober. Oh my gosh. What? Yeah. What a goober dog. Hey, goober dog. Where'd you go? Hey, there you go. There you go. Go get him. Go get him. Go get him. Go get him. Did you find him? No? Good boy. Okay. Whew. There's going to be a lot of nuts here. Speaking of nuts. What a goober pile. Alright, there we go. See how fibrous they are. They're very hard to peel. There we go. Ooh, get this guy out. That's a good nut. Yeah. Oh, shit. There we go. Did you catch it? Catch your tail. Catch it. Catch it. Did you catch it? No? You're so energetic. Go get it. Go get it. Go get it. Get you there. 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 Whee! What a spaz. Did you almost catch it? Get it. Get it. Get it. Did you get it? Did you get it? Did you get it? Did you get it? No. He's gonna fall over. He's gonna be so dizzy. See this guy. Anything good? Ooh, hot, hot, hot. Hot nuts. Yeah. Yeah, looks pretty good. Alright. Alright, let's peel some more nuts. Now it's a lot easier to peel them. Ooh, hot, 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 hot. Alright. Ooh, hot. Hot nut. That looks pretty good. Whew. Let's see. This one's a little cooler now. This one may be bad. Who knows? Oh, actually. Look at that. Looks pretty good. That one looks pretty good underneath. Okay. Yeah, might be good. This one was a little questionable. Let's see. That looks pretty good. All right. Okay, let's put them to dry. Look at those beautifully roasted walnuts. Oh yeah. All that work. The sun is really setting. That was a lot of work for some nuts. Okay, let's go eat.